Education authorities in the United States are asking the government to use anti-terror laws and involve the FBI against parents who protest against the way their children are being taught. The National School Boards Association sent an open letter to the Biden.
Shalom. We want to give all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Ha, Racha, Kodash, Ma'amah. Double honors to the elder apostles and the elders of GMS. Double honors to my elder of this camp as well, Aharawan Ban Yesharala. Salutations to the sincere Akim, pushing this truth and sincerity around the four corners of this earth. I'm going to call Harab Ban Yesharala, coming out of the Lions Den camp of Yesharala here in Jacksonville, Florida. And as you can see, I did a lesson a while back with a couple of the Akim of this camp, speaking about the Patriot Act and how they're able to deem the government can create terrorism or cause, or be a terrorist, to the citizens of the country. Well, now you see what's going on, with this video right here. I'm gonna continue playing it. They're now deeming parents terrorists because the parents are now starting to stand up and don't want their children to be taught any kind of foolish mannerisms or ways. Now all of a sudden the parents are terrorists, and now they finna try to get they trying to call the FBI in and trying to enact anti-terrorism acts upon these people. I'm just gonna roughly paraphrase a few scriptures. Woe to them that devise iniquity. Woe to them, Esau. Woe to Esau, basically. That prescribe grievous or write grievous laws, and what they're doing is grievous unto the people. These parents are like, nah, I don't want you teaching my child no critical race theory, stuff like that. And now they're trying to label them domestic terrorists. But without further ado, I'm gonna let the video play.
Administration.
These acts of malice, violence, and threats against public school officials have increased. The classification of these heinous actions could be the equivalent to a form of domestic terrorism and hate crimes.
For you to dare to try to smear parents as domestic terrorists just reflects just how tone-deaf school boards and school administrators have become about the pleas of parents on behalf of their children.
So the U.S. Attorney General has stepped in, writing to the FBI and criminal attorneys and announcing plans to combat what he called a disturbing spike in harassment, intimidation, and threats of violence against school personnel. Well, my colleague Neil Harvey spoke with RT contributor Lauren Chen, who thinks that many of the accusations have simply been blown out of proportion.
The board's letter does cite some specific incidents, but if you actually look at the video footage from those incidents, most of the, quote, violence that they cite is actually things like parents refusing to wear masks.
No more masks. Keep it calm. No more masks. Figure it out or get off the podium.
You talk about critical race theory, which is pretty much going to be teaching kids how to hate each other, how to dislike each other.
At these meetings, a lot of what they cite as actually being domestic terrorism or violence actually is just tantamount to some harsh words being said. In terms of actual violence, though, I believe there's only one or two specific incidents that were actually led to an arrest that were mentioned in that letter. I think trying to get the FBI involved at all, frankly, just reeks of political activism instead of actually trying to put students first. And I think parents are completely justified in seeing this as an attack on their rights as parents.
The parents aren't shutting up for now, though. In fact, they're saying the Attorney General has got a conflict of interest in this case. What do they mean by that?
The reason why the AG is taking this letter from the School Board Association so seriously is specifically because his daughter, through marriage, has ties to a firm that actually specializes in critical race theory training or something akin to that. His family potentially might benefit financially from CRT actually being implemented in more and more schools throughout the country.
Well, how politicized has school life become these days?
Seems like it's increasingly political, and there have been viral videos that have been leaked of students filming their teachers going on tirades against Trump, systemic racism, America in general. We've even had teachers themselves posting to their social media accounts. I think a lot of parents have started to wake up that no, you cannot simply take for granted that an education in the public school system is the same as what was happening when we were younger.
Recently, dozens of parents have launched campaigns against COVID restrictions and the teaching of a subject called critical race theory. It's led to angry protests targeting school board officials who they accuse of violating their children's rights.
I will do everything I possibly.
We spoke with April Chapman, who is a mother to 4 children in the U.S. state of Georgia. She says many parents have simply had enough.
In today's culture, it's the government thinks that they believe what is proper and right and what your children should be taught. And so parents are experiencing a very difficult time trying to enact change in their local communities as it relates to what's being taught in the government school. People are starting to wake up and they're starting to recognize that, wait a minute, this is not the public education system that I am familiar with or that I grew up in, and it's time for me to take my head out the sand and kind of pay attention to what's going on, because they don't like what's being propagated and pushed and down. Frankly, it's downright indoctrination to what their children are experiencing when they go to school and they're supposed to be learning. Violence is never acceptable. So if there are instances where parents are crossing the line and threats turn into physical violence, then absolutely those incidences should be handled on the basis of their own individual merit. But that's not what we see happening here.
Anyways, the stupid phone. This is Isaiah chapter 10, verse 1. Woe to them that decree unrighteous decrees, and that write grievousness which they have prescribed. Woe to them that decree unrighteous decrees, and trying to label parents as domestic terrorists for them defending what their child or children are being taught in these schools. That's an unrighteous decree. It's grievous. And this is what Esau does. This is how he gets down. You know, you can never ever trust your enemy. Never ever trust him, just like it says in Sirach. I got one more scripture. And then I'm going to close it up. This is Micah chapter 2, verse 1. Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it, because it is in the power of their hand. Woe to them that devise iniquity. Esau is devising iniquity, deeming parents as label or trying to label parents that are concerned about how their children are taught as domestic terrorists, trying to get the FBI involved, enacting terrorist clauses and statuses against them. That's devising iniquity. That's working evil. And Esau, he does this upon his bed, because why? When the morning is light, meaning he wake up thinking about wickedness and how to harm the people through his policies. And Esau, he practices this stuff because it is in the power of his hand. So he does it because he can do it. But he's also doing it because the Most High has put him in that position to do that. But again, never trust your enemy. Shalom.